Hello, and welcome back to another episode of 6 Pillars to Health, where we discuss various topics on how we can all prevent, treat, and sometimes even reverse chronic diseases using the evidence-based lifestyle interventions of lifestyle medicine. My name is Dr. Victoria Collazo, PharmD. I am a board-certified lifestyle medicine pharmacist as well as the host of this show. Today we welcome and are joined with Dr. Marina Buksov. She is the CEO and founder of Raw Fork LLC. She is a functional medicine pharmacist, health coach, as well as an herbal educator, and we're here to talk about taking it back to the roots of pharmacy. And she is going to discuss how medicinal herbs can play a role in our overall health. So Marina, thank you so much for being on 6 Pillars to Health. I'm so happy to have you here and to have this discussion with a fellow pharmacist, talk about plants and medicinal herbs. So welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much again, Victoria, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Super. I'm so excited as well. So let's just get into talking about medicinal herbs. You are a pharmacist. I am a pharmacist. How did you venture upon medicinal herbs, and why did you decide to specialize in medicinal herbs?
Yeah, so it definitely all started in pharmacy school. I actually had the opportunity, which I know not every pharmacy school has, but I had a complementary and alternative medicine elective that I was able to take. And that definitely sparked some interest and joy and exposed me to things that were normally not really taught, right? And is not really seen as the evidence-based, allopathic approach that we do practice. So it was a good introduction. And after I graduated, I realized that, I am not really aligned with any of the opportunities that exist for pharmacists, even though I had a diverse set of rotations and practice settings. And I was even interviewing for fellowships and medical writing. And I was still not feeling like I know where I want to go, because I didn't feel 100% happy with any of those things, and I didn't want to be miserable day in and day out. So I decided to take a local independent pharmacy retail job, and that also exposed me, believe it or not, to herbalism and other traditional medicines of different ethnic backgrounds and cultures. And it showed me that actually other countries do practice it side by side in pharmacy, and there is like this space for it within pharmacy. So that was pretty cool. But I was behind the counter doing the, RXs, the prescriptions. So I wanted to dive deeper, and I reached out to one of my professors, the one that taught the elective, and she told me to connect to another student who told me to do health coaching. I did that. Then I decided that I want to explore functional nutrition and functional medicine, went to a bunch of conferences, did a bunch of certifications. And then somebody just said, you know what, if you are really wanting to utilize your pharmacy background, why have you considered herbalism? Because that is an alternative way of practicing pharmacy. And I was like, you know what? No one has ever quite put it like that before. So let's do it. So I went to an herbal shop that was local to me. I really fell in love with learning about the herbs through the herbalist there. And then I just did a formal 3-year clinical herbalism study. And it really, really put all the pieces together for me and showed me that it does have this power and this role. And the power is really about choice, empowering people to take care of their own health and to have the choice and options available to them as to what that looks like for them and how they can take their health in their own hands, how they can heal with cooking for themselves, nourishing their bodies. And a lot of herbs are, in between a food and a medicine. So that is really how I approach it. And I thought it's a fascinating way to combine what I already do as a pharmacist and add on this additional layer that I can help my patients with.
Wow. I mean, right. You know, I graduated pharmacy school back in 2002 and did all of the things, right, over my career, have worked in different niches, and never, like yourself, felt aligned or where I was actually helping, like really helping individuals and their health. And that's how I stumbled upon lifestyle medicine as well. Now, right, medicinal herbs are so powerful, they're so important. And even as I transitioned out of traditional pharmacy per se, I found myself in a cannabis dispensary where we're talking about herbs and we're talking about plants. We can spice up our food with herbs and spices to make them tasty. So why is it that medicinal herbs are so important, and even plants in general, for overall health?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I also didn't share my personal story, but really quickly, I found herbs incredibly healing for my own health, where allopathic medicine actually did not have many answers for me. And the ones it didn't really guarantee results, and unfortunately ended up harming me more than it helped at all.
Right.
So I found myself almost needing to look outside the box, seeing what else is available, exploring all the variety of modalities, including anything from energy work to herbalism to acupuncture and massage and other types of touch therapy. But at the end, I realized that herbalism actually is giving me that power and that choice back, which I really honor. And I think that's already playing into, maybe some would say, the placebo effect, right? But why not harness that placebo effect, that you believe that you're doing something good for your body and the plants are doing something good for your body? Because as a nutritional also expert, somebody who studied all the different dietary theories, I could tell you the one thing that the science of nutrition can agree on is that we need more plants as the basis of our nutritional foundational needs. We need a plant-based diet. So whether we are using animal products or not, and of course the quality matters, but the basic foundation, how we evolved to thrive and survive, is really by these powerful phytochemicals and constituents that exist in nature in the form of plants, and our body is designed to ingest them and digest them and unlock all of those chemicals in a way, right? But it cannot be replicated in a lab, as hard as the pharmaceutical industry does try, and it has stemmed from herbalism, by the way, right? We can only isolate one component at a time, and that is limiting. That is also could be potentially very effective and therapeutic for a specific thing that we're trying to treat, but it doesn't give us that whole spectrum effect, that whole entourage effect that we're talking about in the cannabis industry now. So whole plants is really the foundation of health. And again, some of the herbs that I work with all the time are either covering our basic nutrient foundation and providing us just straight up building blocks that our body can then utilize in whatever way it needs. Or some of them really do have some other medicinal properties that we work with. And so there's different categories, right? Whether it is more nutritional, like nutrient-dense superfoods, or they're more medicinal and have specific actions that we are trying to elicit. Or, of course, we have to also be aware of some of the poisonous actions, too, of certain plants, and be aware of maybe something that we shouldn't be ingesting.
Absolutely. I mean, you are preaching to the choir, because you know, I wasn't raised, I didn't grow up whole food plant-based, and when I got that diagnosis of high cholesterol, I really started to look at my lifestyle, because I didn't want to end up on Lipitor or Zocor or Crestor or any of the statins because of side effects, right? That was like my worst fear, or just to start that domino effect and be on other prescription medications. And you mentioned something that is so important, and that is choice, right? A lot of times when we get these diagnoses, we may feel scared. We may feel like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Like, is this going to be my life forever? And we have so much choice with regard to the lifestyle interventions, evidence-based lifestyle interventions that we can apply with herbs, with plants, you know, with stress management, with restorative sleep, with physical movement, that can help our body. So, I mean, wow, like, that's hope in and of itself, right? To know that there's so much that we can do. to manage conditions. So I want to ask you, like, what do you think is the most powerful herb available and why?
I really, really have a hard time answering that question because I can't just choose one, you know. I love all my plants, all my herbs. I have a few favorites, but honestly, it's whatever herb you have on hand is probably the most powerful one for you.
Right.
So if you're cooking, right, and you have your medicinal herbs and spices, like we mentioned, just to make your food taste good, like garlic and rosemary and turmeric, you know, ginger, like some of these common things that we don't even think about, these are medicinal herbs. That's why our herbs and spices were so valuable, you know, historically and traded at the price of gold because these things have antioxidants. I think antioxidants are extremely important, right? Especially as we age. And this is what contributes to our overall health because a lot of times when we age, we have a lot more oxidative stress and damage and inflammation, and this is why we age. Yep. So anything that has high level of antioxidant. And so if I had to choose just one to share with you today, I will say something that I think you will find surprising. I will say the rose.
Wow.
You know, this has been a plant, you know, in literature and romance. It's always been associated with love and you know, medicinally, it actually has a lot of benefits. It has those antioxidants, and the rose hip, the fruit of the rose, has the vitamin C, which is so important for detoxification and collagen. And it is also considered the plant of youth and beauty. We make essential oils and fragrances from them. It also is a powerful ally for the feminine and for processing grief. So it really does soften the heart and opens us up to be self-compassionate. And it helps regulate the nervous system through that way. And I honestly think that one of our biggest pillars and keys to unlocking our healing is to regulate our nervous system. Absolutely. So anything that helps you feel calm and beautiful and joyful is something that you should be having on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. You know, the oil that I use on my face, especially in the winter time, but I mean, I use it all the time, has is called rosehip oil. And right, oxidative stress, I like to draw the parallel to like a rusting car, right? Like it ages, it rusts all over. And when we add in those antioxidants, that's how we can keep, you know, our body is just like a car. When we maintain it and we give it all the nourishment with, you know, stress management, physical activity, we can keep ourselves, you know, in top-notch shape. And sometimes I believe age in reverse too. So we definitely want to stay away from that oxidative stress. So yes, you did surprise me with that. I love turmeric. Like it's something that I incorporate every day. I actually give it to my dog as well. And just for that inflammation, like to keep that all at bay. We don't want that chronic inflammation that we've talked about before, which is root cause to chronic disease. We don't want to elicit that fire inside of our bloodstream. We want to keep it nice and calm and very anti-inflammatory. So any challenges to working with medicinal herbs? I mean, you're an herbal educator, and why, if you know someone wants to incorporate herbs into their diet, we should reach out, especially to pharmacists, right? I'm all about go pharmacist, you know, with that education in herbs, because we know that you can find herbs in a pharmacy. What are some challenges, things to think about, any cautions when working with medicinal herbs?
Yeah, so the challenge, I think, is definitely, number one, the legal status, right? We are taught to distrust it and not recommend it and be a gatekeeper against using something like this because there's not enough evidence or literature behind, you know, how we would like and prefer to practice. So that's one challenge. How do you actually find reputable information and data that you can trust? Right. And the second challenge is standardization, right? Because we can't guarantee something that grows out in nature in the wild, something that grows in your garden, something that you're cultivating or you're seeing grow in the wild. They're going to have different properties depending on the conditions in the wild or cultivated, indoor or outdoor, you know. So we try to control when we do market these as products, let's say, we try to control for as many of these factors and variables as possible. but it's still going to be more challenging when something is growing, right? And we can't control 100% of the conditions that we're exposing these things to. So the, quantitative effects of certain constituents or milligram dosage forms, or, how we are used to kind of calibrating our medicine is a little bit more challenging, batch to batch, grower to grower, product to product. And again, if you're just growing it yourself or, seeing it in the wild, they're all going to be a little bit different. And the ones in the wild actually are going to be even more medicinal potentially, because they are developing secondary metabolites that are giving it new functions and new, for us, usually upon ingestion, additional benefits. So that is probably the most difficult thing. However, the good news is overall, when you're consuming a whole food or a whole plant, the side effect profile is a lot more forgiving, and your body knows how to utilize those compounds in synergy to each other. Because when we're not just isolating and standardizing or synthesizing one specific thing, our body actually is able to self-regulate all those ingredients for a cumulative benefit most of the time. And again, we do want to avoid, for certain people with certain conditions, certain maybe constituents of a certain plant family, or of course, recognize that certain plants have a narrow therapeutic index and be extremely careful with those.
Right. And why, if you are looking to incorporate more herbs, you should reach out to herbal educator, pharmacist in your area, or even I'm going to tell you a little bit later on how you can work with Marina if you feel called to do so. But we are going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue on this conversation, and we're going to talk more about plant medicine. We're going to talk about chronic conditions. I'm going to ask Marina some more things of what are her favorite recipes for immune boosting and anti-inflammatory. So stay with us. We have a lot more valuable information that could help you in life. So stay with us. We'll be back here in 2 minutes. Hello and welcome back to 6 Pillars to Health, where we discuss various topics on how we can all prevent, treat, and sometimes even reverse chronic conditions using the evidence-based therapeutic interventions of lifestyle medicine. And today I'm joined with Dr. Marina Buksov. She is a functional medicine pharmacist, health coach, and herbal educator. And we're talking about plant medicine, we're talking about herbs, and how we can incorporate them into our daily lives to aid in our overall health. Prior to the commercial break, we talked about the most powerful herbs, or, what Marina thought was a very great, powerful herb. There's so many that, it's hard to even choose one, and some challenges that can be found when incorporating herbs. But now we're going to continue on with the conversation, and I want to talk about chronic conditions, Marina. I think you can agree with me that pharmacies are filled with prescription medications, and they're filling prescriptions for a lot of chronic conditions that root cause are, due to inflammation, right? Having that chronic low-grade inflammation throughout our body. And I guess I want to ask you, what is your perspective on natural plant medicine for disease management?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And, just yesterday, I learned about this fascinating concept where instead of thinking of topics as mutually exclusive, we can actually open up definitions. So, for example, in the pharmacy, like you said, we're used to handing out prescriptions for disease, but we can also help to open up the conversation for promoting health, right? So it could be both of these things. It's like a shoreline, like it's not just the water or just the sand and the rocks, it's both, right? It's touching on both things. So even while we're managing people's already diagnosed conditions and diseases, we can still support the foundational pillars of health, because drug therapy alone cannot be the foundation. We need a good foundation before the drugs can even work, before we can even, give them a chance to do what they're doing. They're filling in the gaps. They're the crutches. They're the Band-Aids that are helping us feel better or good enough so that our body can do the work of self-regulating. We have all these negative and positive feedback cycles that our body knows how to regulate and re-regulate back into health. So really, I believe in setting the foundation with the building blocks, and our body knows what to do once we give it a chance, also by giving it enough rest, giving it enough sleep, enough joy, enough stress management tools. So for the additional layering in of herbs right on top of a good nutritional foundation is also just helping us fill in some of those gaps. It's helping to activate our own enzymes and our own systems of healing. One of the best things that herbs can do for us is, like I mentioned before, build the nutrients that are missing. Sometimes our food is devoid of the nutrients, even good food. So quality is important, and the herbs can actually fill in some nutritional gaps. A lot of herbs, believe it or not, are also considered weeds. And we actually use them. The weeds restore the soil, they remineralize the soil, and then they hold the minerals in their roots and in their leaves. And, these parts of the plants that we use in different ways to support our deficient nutrients and enzymes, to support our detoxification pathways. Because if we are holding on to all the toxicity, it's very difficult for our body to restore itself. So it does need the support. And so we can really use these more gentle medicines and foods to support what our body is naturally doing, right? So our liver does the detox, our kidneys do the detox, but the herbs can actually help activate all the processes by giving it the necessary cofactors, filling in the nutrients, and then allowing us to gently let go of the toxins in a safe way, in a controlled way. Also, our lymphatic system is something that we can use, mechanical, physical means, and also herbs to help clear out and help support our immunity and other detoxification pathways. So it's really two main things: one, good nutrients, and two, help us clear away the toxins.
Yeah, setting that good foundation. It's like, building a house, right? You need that foundation to be solid, because when those walls go up or when that roof comes up, you don't want it to come crashing down. And our lifestyle, our nutrition, our physical movement, stress management, sleep, positive social connections, right? Those are all things that we have 100% control over. And that was one thing when I did work retail pharmacy, you would, especially, I love talking to individuals with diabetes, because I feel like there's just so much that we can manage to help with managing our blood sugars. But in the retail pharmacy setting, pharmacist is worried about all of these prescriptions that have to get out, right? That you don't have the time to sit that individual down. And a lot of times it's more than just asking one or two questions, right? There has to be like an in-depth intake of what are you doing? What do you like? How do you do this? And all the things, so that people can start to have that strong foundation. And why it's so nice to see other healthcare professionals who, want to bring value to individuals' health by teaching them how we can incorporate these things that are in our life already. We all eat every single day, right? So let's eat to promote health and not to promote disease. Obviously, we have medications there if we need them, but even in the guidelines, right? Like it says lifestyle interventions first before medication, but I feel like we just jump over that, right? And we it's easier to get a pill sometimes, right? But having that knowledge of how lifestyle plays is going to benefit us and help our bodies heal in a more beautiful way without the side effects of prescription medications. All right, I want to talk about a client success story. I'd like to talk about client success stories and how maybe working with you, what a client has achieved.
Yeah, so just to start with myself first, I'm my own first client. So as I was mentioning before, I had weird diagnoses. I had like this weird burping condition. They tested me for H. pylori. I got, the whole 9-yard therapy for that. It did not help. Then I had this weird leaky, teary eye condition, dacryostenosis. Then I was diagnosed with PCOS. All of these things just cascading, and not many answers besides, prescriptions, antibiotics, steroids, topical steroids, including, long-term therapy, and nothing's working. And then hormonal replacement therapy and birth control for any hormonal issues is the only solution that we have. So me being my own patient, I saw how herbs were actually helping and instrumental in my own healing journey, and were able to significantly reduce and in some cases completely reverse symptoms just from like a week's long, in some cases, working with herbs with specific formulas, completely eradicated my symptoms, right? So that has been extremely powerful, and that's why I now specialize. Most of my work is for the digestive system. That's a huge part that we want to optimize in every disease state. And that has been like my journey personally. So that's why I dive in and I work with people on optimizing their digestive. So I've worked with weight loss and pre-diabetes and reversing that. And one of my success stories was a client that was pretty similar to myself. So she wasn't necessarily diagnosed with PCOS, but she had all the symptoms that we talk about, of metabolic and androgen dominance and, dysregulation. So it's not just one diagnosis that we're working with. It's like understanding what is going on in the body to cause this state. And the body is usually just trying to protect you and keep you alive. But we do need to help it self-regulate, as I keep mentioning. So we worked with this client, and over the period of like just even 3 sessions together, she was able to see the results. And over the period of like a month and a half, where she stopped having debilitating cramps during the menstrual cycle. She was able to manage them. She was able to clear up acne. She was able to lose weight. She was able to regulate her menstrual cycle and not have the condition anymore, or like the symptoms that would match up with the condition of PCOS anymore. So that is a case that I actually did a workshop on. If anybody's interested, that's on my website.
And what I love about all of this is that the results happen fairly quickly, right? So Marina, like you had all of the things that was just drawn out, go to doctors, do lab work, try this, try that, with, not being successful. And then you switch, right? And you start incorporating those plants and incorporating those herbs, and very quickly things start to reverse. And that is like, when I think of health, like I don't think, a Medi planner with like 10, 12, 15 different medications in time slots, right? I think of being vibrant, having energy, sleeping well, and minimizing or even eliminating the need for prescription medication. So it can be done, right? If there's anything that this interview has brought to you, it should be hope that even if you have chronic conditions, right? And it's not really like, this condition, they all play into each other, right? And digestive, Marina works with digestive issues. Where does that start? It starts with our mouth. It starts with the foods that we're putting in to our body. So very quickly, Marina, because we're almost out of time, how can viewers contact you if they feel called to work with you?
Yeah, so you can just find me on my website. It's drmarinabuksov.com, and I have links to my podcast and lots of other resources there, and also links to my social media. So you could just look me up by my name, Marina Buksov.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marina, for bringing this valuable information of 6 Pillars to Health. And it really just cosigns, right? Eat more plants. Add some herbs, spice up your foods. You can absolutely make them tasty and delicious, and it doesn't have to cost $1 million, right? We all have to nourish our bodies, so let's nourish our bodies to promote health as opposed to disease. In any event, thank you for joining me on another episode of 6 Pillars to Health. This brings us to the end of our show, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Until then, I hope you take good care and be well.